Good morning, members. I call upon the chaplain to open us with a word of prayer.
Good morning and blessed New Year to everyone. In the book of Romans 13:1 reads, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." Let us pray. Gracious God, we come before you with thanksgiving prayers and intercessions as your word has instructed us. Today we lift before you all who serve in authority, our leaders, elected officials, and those who entrust with public responsibility. Grant them wisdom in their decisions, integrity in their actions, humility in their leadership. Guide them to govern with justice, compassion, and a genuine concern for the common good. We pray for those who serve our nation, be a place of peace and stability. We pray, O God, that our people will live a quiet and orderly lives marked by respect, dignity, and hope. Strengthen those who carry the weight of leadership. Give them clarity in times of difficulty, courage in times of challenge, and a spirit of cooperation that seeks unity rather than division. We entrust our government and our country into your care. We give thanks for all who serve faithfully for the well-being of this nation. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain, for those words of wisdom. You may be seated. As this is our first sitting for 2026, permit me to wish everyone and their families a blessed, safe, and happy 2026. It has already started off with challenges for many, and we remember those, and we pray for the safety of those who are not with us. I will call upon the Deputy Clerk to proceed with the order paper.
Thank you. Good morning. Confirmation of minutes. Minutes of proceedings of the 13th meeting of the first session of the 13th Anguilla House of Assembly.
Members, you have before you the minutes dated the 16th of December 2025. These are the minutes of our 13th meeting. Are there any amendments, any changes, corrections that you wish to note for the record? Hearing no corrections, I invite a member to move that the minutes be confirmed.
Speaker, I rise to move that the minutes be accepted as circulated.
Thank you, member.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
Thank you, member. It has been moved and seconded that the minutes dated 16th December 2025 be confirmed. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The minutes are confirmed.
Oath of allegiance to new members, Honorable Attorney General.
At this stage, I invite the Honorable Attorney General to come to take the oath.
I, Rachel Spearing, KC, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God.
Let me be the first Honorable Attorney General to welcome you to the jurisdiction. I know you've had your formal welcome yesterday. I apologize that I was absent. I was in flight back to Anguilla for this sitting. And I want to commend you for taking on the challenge. And there will be challenges, but there will also be triumphs. This is a good working jurisdiction, a good working body. We've already started quite a bit of work with the chambers, and we look forward to your influence, your impact. We've noted your impressive biography, and we think that you will bring quite a lot to bear to the jurisdiction. I also have a bias in saying that I'm very pleased that I was able to swear in our first female Attorney General, I believe. So I must make recognition for that, and I must say that you're joining a very strong body of females in the House, if I do say so. But I also want to take the opportunity as well to bid farewell to our Mr. Green, because I hadn't had an opportunity to say that on the last occasion. We weren't sure if he would be here by this date. And Mr. Green is in the gallery, and we want to thank Mr. Green for his steadfast work. We thank him for his support. And this is not farewell, of course, Mr. Green. As I've said in our introductory meeting this morning with the Attorney General, that Mr. Green has been a profound help and support to all of us. And I know every member is extremely grateful for his yeoman service, and he will continue to do so. So thank you, Mr. Green. If you wish to make a few comments, I would permit that at this time, Honorable AG.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to say a few words. It's truly an honour to be here and to serve the people of Anguilla and this government as your Attorney General. I've talked to many people in preparation for this role, and they all speak of their love for this island. I'm sure I'll be no different in that. I'm aware of the challenges, Madam Speaker. There has been a long period without a permanent Attorney General, and I offer a pledge that under my leadership, we will prioritise creating an office that invests in the development of our people to thrive and to serve in their respective functions. I want to see the Attorney General's chambers as a place that young Anguillians aspire to work and become leaders themselves. I look forward to playing my part as principal legal advisor to the government, ensuring that the drafting of legally sound legislation and policies deliver the government's agenda and ensure the maintenance of an institutional framework of law, order, and good governance. I intend to ensure that I superintend criminal cases and advise on all civil litigation. I want to say now, here, that I'm committed to tackling organised and domestic crime with measures to repel, respond, and effectively investigate, prosecuting fairly and expeditiously before our criminal justice system. I acknowledge balancing power and the respective rights of individuals alongside our Constitution is a priority for me. In swearing my oath today, I want to say again that first and foremostly, I'm a lawyer whose ethos is, as I said yesterday, to serve with honest, candid, and independent advice. I expect to be accountable, and I welcome robust discussion. For those truly, really are the traits of a healthy, democratic, and transparent process. It's essential for fairness, equality, and justice, and it is that I stand. Now more than ever, discourse of world events demonstrate how security and partnerships anchored in respect for the rule of law really can only truly provide us with the vital safety for our decision-making process. I'm confident, given the past issues that Anguilla has faced and overcome, be they legal, operational, or natural disaster, that we shall rise to these challenges to respond ahead. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and God bless Anguilla.
Thank you, Honorable Attorney General. I call upon the Deputy Clerk.
Announcements by direction of the Speaker.
As it relates to announcements, we have apologies from the Honorable Premier, who's attending the OECS meeting and is currently out of the jurisdiction. Are there any other excused absences? Our second announcement is in respect of the post-election seminar to be conducted in Bermuda next week. I am pleased to inform the House that Mr. Proctor has been invited as one of the facilitators in respect of some of the topics: ethics, behavior, standards in parliament, cross-party collaboration are some of the topics. Mr. Proctor, your topic, along with myself, we've been invited to present under the topic Session 8, Exploring the Use of AI in Parliaments. The Honorable Speaker Lister from the Bermuda Parliament has been quite intrigued by the work that we have been doing with AI, and he's invited both of us, so we intend to attend that seminar and make a presentation as it relates to our work that we've done so far. Our topic will be delivered on the 27th. Mr. Proctor will be there for a lot longer than I will. I will go to Bermuda just to attend the session on the AI session and one of Mr. Proctor's. So we wish him the best. He is an outstanding and stellar representation of this house, and he has been so supportive of each one of you. So we send good luck to Mr. Proctor. I'll be there taking notes, but also happy that I'll be there to support him as well in the second presentation. I don't believe there are any other announcements. You can proceed.
Questions?
We have before us, members, under E of our order paper, a series of questions that were proposed by the Honorable Member for Road South, I believe, not Road North as well, right? Just Road South only. And I did say to Mr. Proctor that I am heartened that our rules are being put to good use. I was very happy that the questions were delivered in a timely manner. And I'll encourage members to, if you can submit even a little earlier than the Thursday of the week, would give time for us to go through and make sure that the format of the questions is correct in terms of the rules. But I'm very pleased because then we were able to get them over to the member responsible for responses. As it relates to the answers, are the answer papers ready for distribution? Okay. I'd suggest that we distribute. I think on the last occasion, I indicated that we can distribute after and allow the responses to be made as you've done in the past. Would both sides be amenable to that format again, so that it's not distracting and you listen to the answer, and if there are any supplementals arising, you go ahead and do so. That's fine. And then the other point of housekeeping is in relation to supplemental. If there are any supplementary questions arising from the answer, you'll just indicate that you have a supplemental and you indicate that. As it relates to the answers, when I looked at the questions, there were some of the questions that may not necessarily have been intended for the particular member that it was posed to. Has that been resolved, or is it that there might be other members that have been delegated to answer certain questions? Because there was an overlap where some related to sports points and some related to lands points. So just as a matter of housekeeping, is that resolved and going to be dealt with by one member? Just so there's no disruption. Two members. So just a point for the opposition to be informed. If you haven't been informed already, some of the questions may have been directed to one member. That member has the ability to assign that question to a member more fit and more directly related to the matter to answer them. So if that happens, that is perfectly within their right to do, and they'll indicate when they rise. So member for Road South, you may proceed with your questions one by one.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and good morning to this honorable House, and welcome to the new Attorney General. Questions, will we ask each question in one at a time? Question number 1. Will the Minister state the current status of the technical assessments completed by the Department of Lands and Surveys and the Department of Physical Planning, and whether those assessments remain the basis for site selection for the National Track and Field Facility in accordance with the parameters of the 2023 grant application?
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and Happy New Year to all in the House and all those who are listening in or watching us on Facebook. To answer the question, the first question, Madam Speaker, the technical assessments completed by the Department of Lands and Surveys and the Department of Physical Planning remain in place and continue to form the basis for site selection for the National Track and Field Facility. These assessments were conducted in accordance with the parameters set out in the 2023 grant application and remained a guiding reference for determining the most suitable site.
Any supplementary questions? Okay, you can proceed with question 2.
Will the Minister state whether the official grant application and supporting government documentation make any provision for the acquisition of privately owned land for the track and field facility?
Madam Speaker, to answer the second question, the official grant application and supporting government documentation require that the land on which the track and field facility is to be constructed be owned by the government of Anguilla. The documentation does not prescribe or make specific provision for the manner in which the land is to come into government ownership.
Any supplemental questions? You may proceed.
Question 3. Will the minister state whether any privately owned lands, including but not limited to land opposite the campus Q and new access road, land north of Best Buy East, land in the Farrington, and land in the Tanglewood area, are currently under consideration for the National Track and Field Facility?
To answer question 3, Madam Speaker, yes. The government is working closely with the Anguilla Amateur Athletics Association to ensure that Anguilla receives the best possible national track and field facility for our students and athletes. As part of this process, a comprehensive review of the grant application is being undertaken. Once these internal considerations and assessments are complete, the public will be officially updated.
Thank you. Question 4. Will the minister state what fiscal resources or assumptions are being applied to the current site assessments for the National Track and Field Facility, and whether these differ from those reflected in the 2023 grant application?
Thank you. Madam Speaker, to answer question 4, the fiscal resources being applied to the current site assessments for the National Track and Field Facility are being considered within the government's capital funding program. This framework allows for the reprogramming of budgetary outlays, subject to the appropriate processes and the relevant approvals of Executive Council. Any such reprogramming would also require the agreement and confirmation of the Ministry of Finance to ensure that the necessary physical provisions are in place. At this stage, no final determination has been made as to whether these arrangements will differ from those reflected in the 2023 grant application.
I have a supplementary question, Madam Speaker, and that supplementary question is related to the fact that the 2026 budget appropriation does not have any funding relating to the National Track and Field that will be granted by World Athletics. Can you say why that is the case?
Do you have a separate question? You have a separate question on budget? Hang on, member. Sorry, member, it's 2026. I'm still in charge. Member for Road South, I think you have a budget-specific question. Is it there or is it a separate question, Mr.? No, but I didn't want you to ask it of a supplemental if you have a substantive question on it. And I think you have a question on budget. But no, just wait. Let's make sure. Which number is it, Mr. Richardson? I think you're familiar with it too. There's a question on if there was a budgetary provision. Number 17 and number 18. So let's leave your supplemental until then. Okay, proceed with your next question then.
Will the minister state the parameters currently being applied to the site selection for the National Track and Field Facility, and whether those parameters differ from those set out in the 2023 grant application?
Madam Speaker, to answer question 5, the parameters currently being applied to the site selection for the National Track and Field Facility do not differ from those set out in the 2023 grant application. The key parameter remains that the land must be owned by the government of Anguilla and be suitable for development of the facility within the approved funding framework. The site selection process continues to be guided by these established criteria, in keeping with the requirements of the grant and the government's funding and planning obligations.
Thank you. Will the minister state whether the government intends to pursue the acquisition of privately owned land for the development of the track and field facility?
To answer question 6, Madam Speaker, at present, the government is examining all available options in the public interest, including both government-owned and privately owned lands, for the development of the National Track and Field Facility. These considerations remain under review and may either remain the same or change as assessments progress. The government is working closely with the local athletics association to ensure that the selected site is fit for purpose and that the association is satisfied with the final site selection.
Thank you. Question 7. Will the minister state whether the land ownership requirement in the 2023 grant application has been amended, and if so, provide the date, the approving authority, and documentary evidence of such amendment?
To answer question number 7, Madam Speaker, the land ownership requirement set out in the 2023 grant application has not been amended. No changes have been approved, and therefore no amendments approving authority, date, or documentary evidence exists in relation to such a change.
Will the minister identify the document or documents relied upon when making representations to Minister Doherty regarding the track and field facility, including the date each was prepared or approved?
To answer question 8, Madam Speaker, the representations made to Minister Doherty regarding the National Track and Field Facility were based on the existing business case documentation previously prepared for the project. The key documents relied upon and include A, Project 10, Anguilla application, and B, Track and Field Location Options Assessment prepared under the Ministry of Social Development and Education as part of the project development process. These documents form the basis of the information provided.
Question 9. Will the minister state whether any documents relied upon in representations to the United Kingdom government are connected to, derived from, in reference to the 2023 application submitted to World Athletics and the Qatar Olympic Committee?
To answer question 9, Madam Speaker, yes, documentations relied upon in the representation to the UK government are connected to, derived from, and reference the 2023 application submitted to World Athletics and the Qatar Olympic Committee. Approximately 65% of the content of the outlined business case is derived from, consolidated, or reframed from the two earlier documents identified in response to question 8.
I have a supplementary question, Madam Speaker. Has the minister or the ministry been in contact with World Athletics in Qatar relating to when the grant application will be fulfilled?
Could you repeat that question?
Has the minister or the ministry or the government of Anguilla has been in contact, direct contact with Qatar or World Athletics as it relates to the development of the track and field facility?
Communication, Madam Speaker, is done through the Anguilla Amateur Athletics Association.
Madam Speaker, can I have a supplementary question or no? Relating to that answer, to the answer.
Relating to that, it's done through, what's the question?
The question was whether or not the minister or the ministry have been in contact with Anguilla Athletics Association to know, because government of Anguilla have a financial obligation in terms of perpetual works.
Yeah, his response, his communication has been through the Anguilla Athletics Association. So I assume that on your next occasion with questions, the follow-on will be for him to inquire of, the same way we had done with Anglic, because that's a separate body. If he's not prepared to today, then the next round of questions should be, can you make inquiries of it? But that was the nature of your supplemental.
The nature of the supplementary was whether or not the minister, the ministry have been in contact or in discussion with the Anguilla Athletic Association as it relates to the development of the track and when it's going to be granted. Because one of the permanent secretaries is actually the president of the Anguilla Athletic Association. So the communication should be pretty easy.
So your response, Mr. Connor, to that part of it was, I wrote it, communication has been through the Anguilla Amateur.
Yes, and that should not be confused with persons within the ministry. It's not about the government, it's the Anguilla Amateur Athletics Association.
That doesn't answer your supplemental.
Doesn't, but
But it doesn't bar you from bringing a new set of questions in relation. So there are things that are going to arise from, because you've asked a lot of questions, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of information that you will now want to process and have a new set of questions, so I can see where you're going with it, but just that his response doesn't really get you to where you want to go.
And
You're guided.
I'll let it be. I'll let it be, because I can derive from that what the answer is.
Not really. You can ask him the direct question on another occasion.
Question 10, Madam Speaker. Will the minister state whether any written submission, request, or representation regarding the track and field facility Kingdom government during the most recent joint ministerial council engagement, and if so, provide the date and author?
Madam Speaker, to answer question 10, yes, during the most recent Joint Ministerial Council engagement, a draft outline business case regarding the National Track and Field Facility was prepared by the Ministry of Sports with support from the Anguilla Amateur Athletics Association. This draft was based on content derived from previous documents prepared in 2023. The submission was completed in November 2025.
Thank you. Will the minister confirm whether any formal written representations were made to the United Kingdom government concerning the track and field? Madam Speaker, I'll assume that, I'll forward that question because I'll assume the prior question answers that question. Number 11.
So is it that you're saying number 11 is subsumed under the question about joint ministerial council, and that was answered?
Yes.
So you'll withdraw 11 then, as asked and answered. Okay. Move on.
Thank you. 12. Will the minister state the current status of the site previously approved by Executive Council for the National Track and Field Facility?
To answer question 12, Madam Speaker, the current status of the site previously approved by Executive Council for the National Track and Field Facility is that the lands are being utilized for agricultural purposes until such time as the project is ready to move forward.
Yes, because the question itself is a little unusual too, so I can imagine you'll have one. So the question is, will the minister state the current status of the site? So the first thing is, do we know what the site is we're referring to here? What is the site that we're referring to? Just so that the public understands what we're talking about. So I don't know what we're talking about.
The minister answered the question, really, in terms of the site. The site is the...
No, I'm doing this for my own help and the
Okay.
public's help, because I think Mr. Richardson has a supplemental. So before I hear the supplemental, let me make sure I understand the question. Will the minister state the current status of the site? So will the minister state the current status of the site previously approved by Executive Council for the National Track? And then the minister said the current status of the site previously approved by Executive Council for the National Track and Facility is that the lands are being utilized for agricultural purposes until such time as the project is ready to move forward. So it's a bit of an ambiguous question, a bit of an ambiguous response. So let's break it down. What is the site that we're talking about? Is it the same site the minister referred to as the agricultural site? That's the site we're referring to? Right. So your question is, what is the status of it? And then if I go to a portion of his answer is that it's being utilized for agricultural purposes until the project is ready to move forward. So that's how I kind of extrapolated. So did I interpret that correctly? Because I know now Mr. Richardson has a supplemental, so I just want to make sure I understand what the question was and understand what the answer is.
Made reference to the site being an agricultural site, but the site was designated by Executive Council before.
Right, so that's why I want you in your question to be specific, so that we're not talking about different things. You said, will the minister state the current status of the site? So I'm just trying to understand from you, what is it that you're referring to as the site? Because Mr. Khanna could be referring to something completely different, and we don't know what we're talking about.
Well,
What is the site?
The site is adjacent to Sud's Pubs, adjacent to the James John Webster's Park.
The agro-lands?
Yes,
Okay.
we are on the same page as it relates to that particular site.
Okay.
But the site, what I was saying is that the site was previously agricultural and was redesignated under the Farmer and Ellis Webster's administration for the track and field. And it seems as if it has been redesignated back to agriculture through Executive Council. Is that it?
So that's exactly what the point. When let's ask the question that we want to ask. So the question is, what is the status? That could mean, is the land grown up? Is it chopped down? Is somebody sleeping there? Like when you say what is the status, you really mean to say, is the government continuing to proceed with that as the designated lands? That's what you mean?
That too, and if the land has been redesignated back to as an
Ask the,
agricultural
so,
site
so in the
through Executive
future, when
Council.
you're doing the questions, ask the question that you want the answer to.
But this was a supplementary question, really.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to entertain the supplemental, but the point I'm making is that will the minister say the current status of the site, and then a supplemental coming from that doesn't help because we don't know what your question meant. You want to ask him, is the government proceeding with that site for that purpose? And okay, so your supplemental then, Mr. Richardson, is what?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. Actually, while sitting here and checking my supplemental as I wrote it, I was thinking that my supplemental actually will be for the minister responsible for agriculture, because my supplemental would be what arrangements have been made with the farmers overall. When World Athletics say the track is ready, if no other lands were to be found, if there has been an arrangement, a written arrangement with the farmers at this point in time.
So I'm going to invite you then to save that, make it an actual question, and submit it through the House for the appropriate minister. And that's helpful because now we know what we are talking about. So does the minister's response answer your question, Member for Road South, number 12? It answers it based on how it's asked, but you can. Okay. The purpose of the exercise is that I don't want the members to walk away with things to draw inferences and extrapolate from. You have an opportunity to ask the question in a public forum. So once the question is asked and you get the answer, everybody should understand. So that was really the point that I'm making. So Mr. Richardson, you've identified a follow-on question, but it now isn't for this minister, and you'll have the appropriate forum to do so. So, I mean, the government ministers can take cues as to what they need to prepare themselves for, because you will have subsequent questions at subsequent meetings arising from this, I presume. Do you want to proceed to question 13?
Will the minister state for each site currently under consideration whether it meets the technical, ownership, and location requirements for the 2023 grant application?
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Question 13, the answer. The government is working closely with the Anguilla Amateur Athletics Association to review all options thoroughly, and we are prepared to support them in whichever direction they wish to go.
I have a supplementary question, Madam Speaker, because this announcement has been made already. And the supplementary question is this: if World Athletics say to the government of Anguilla, to Anguilla Athletic Association, that in February of 2026 they would like to proceed with the development of the track and field in Anguilla, what does the government of Anguilla do?
What's the supplemental
The
question?
supplementary question is really and truly, you know what, Madam Speaker, I'll withdraw the supplementary question.
Yeah, it sounds like
I'll withdraw the
yeah, it's a hypothetical, and we aren't allowed to ask hypothetical questions. So that's why it's important that you get the answer, and then you can drill down on an actual factual response. Question 14.
Will the minister state the total public expenditure incurred for the agricultural project currently operating on land previously identified for the National Track and Field Facility, and identify the budget line from which it was funded?
Madam Speaker, to answer question 14, I'd like my colleague, the Minister of Lands, to answer that question, the Honorable Kyle Hodge.
Proceed.
Thank you, Acting Premier. To answer question 14, to date, the total expenditure incurred thus far on the agricultural lands project are as follows. 1. $3,143.98 EC paid from account 33701, and that was for rental of heavy equipment under the Department of Natural Resources for excavation of the site. 2, $3,705.95 EC paid from the ministry's capital account 41099-06102 for excavation of the site. 3, labor costs, 23,000 EC from wages account number 31201.
Any supplemental questions?
Madam Speaker, it's just a supplementary question to the minister as it relates to the labor costs and the fact that it's 23,000 and it went above the threshold for public procurement. Did it go through public procurement?
It's wages. Wages for who? Who are the wages? It depends on, it's,
The minister can answer that question.
well, hang on, let me make sure. Your supplemental question is to seek clarity on a figure that he stated?
That's correct, Madam Speaker. And the figure is 23,000, and it's for labor. And the question is whether or not, because it went above the threshold for the Public Procurement Act, whether it went to procurement for the procurement of these labor services. Photo. And well, yes, that's the question, Madam Speaker.
It seems to me as if you're introducing a new question in the question, but does the minister have information on that?
Madam Speaker, I can retrieve the information. I don't have that particular detail in this.
Yeah, it's not something that's unclear that needs to be clarified. It's a question of fact that you want to now explore something else. It isn't anything in his response that requires clarifying.
It's just relating to the Public Procurement Act. I know it's a separate question, but it still relates to this expenditure. But if that is the point, I'm willing to.
No, I'm not telling you
Because,
that you
Madam
can't ask it. It's just that it's the point of the supplemental is to elucidate something that wasn't clear in the response. So, for example, something that wouldn't be clear in a response like this would be, well, who are the wages for? And I mean, I can't tell you what to ask, but I'm just saying that there's nothing unclear that you're seeking clarity on as it relates to the figure 23,000 paid in wages.
23,000 that was paid, he said it was paid in labor. It could have been to a particular contractor. And under the Public Procurement Act, any expenditure that exceeds 4,000 EC dollars has to go to public procurement. So what I was asking is whether or not it's went to public procurement.
I understand. Minister?
Madam Speaker, I'll retrieve the information and submit it to the House.
Yes, because what the member has clarified is that even though it says it's from a wages account, it's actually labor costs. So the minister has given an undertaking to obtain the answer for you.
Will the minister identify the crops planted on said site and the projected yields and the actual yields achieved?
Thank you for the question. Again, Madam Speaker, I refer to my colleague to answer that question.
Speaker, the answer to question 15. What is currently planted includes tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, cabbage, corn, and celery. These are all short yield cash crops with minimal to no long-term impact on the farmland. Projected yields and actual yields are unknown as the exact rows of each crop is also not completed. This is still a work in progress.
Thank you very much, Minister. Will the minister state whether any cost-benefit analysis has been conducted prior to the commencement of the agricultural project on land designated by Executive Council for the National Track and Field Facility? And if so, table that analysis.
Thank you. Again, Madam Speaker, I refer to my colleague.
That is question 16. The answer to that is the cost-benefit analysis supports food production particularly after observing some of the most productive farmland remain abandoned for more than 2 years with nothing but weeds. In the interim, the government of Anguilla is utilizing the land for food production. The aim is to achieve a win-win outcome where Anguilla preserves some of its best farmland while the youth of Anguilla benefit from a world-class athletic track and field facility.
I'm not sure that's a cost-benefit analysis.
Supplemental question, not debate, supplemental
Yeah,
question.
supplementary question will be to have a cost-benefit analysis presented as it relates to that. I don't think that's a cost-benefit analysis, but I'll move on to question 17. Will the minister state whether provision, sorry, let me rephrase that question, Madam Speaker. Will the minister state what provision, if any, has been made in the 2026 budget to meet the government's counterpart funding obligations under the grant agreement for the National Track and Field Facility?
Madam Speaker, again to answer question 17, provision to meet the government's counterpart funding obligations under the grant agreement for the National Track and Field Facility will be addressed through adjustments to the capital outlay within the 2026 budget. This may include the reprogramming of capital expenditure and the pausing of certain project elements to ensure that the funding for this priority project is adequately provided for.
Thank you, Acting Premier. Question 18. Will the minister state whether a supplementary is planned to provide? Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if I'm going to ask this question because he said there won't be real supplementary, that they will just reprioritize funding. Do you think I should still ask a question? Okay. Madam Speaker, I've been advised by my advisor that I should still proceed with this question. Question 18. Sorry. Will the minister state whether a supplementary budget is planned to provide the required counterpart funding? And if so, when will it be brought before this honorable House? And if a supplementary budget is not planned, will the minister state the mechanism through which government intends to meet its counterpart funding obligations under the grant agreement?
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. To answer question 18, provision to meet the government's counterpart funding obligations under the grant agreement for the National Track and Field Facility will be addressed through adjustments to the capital outlay within the 2026 budget. This may include the reprogramming of capital expenditure and the pausing of certain project elements to ensure that funding for this priority project is adequately provided for.
Madam Speaker, it was stated by the minister that this project is a priority. Can the minister, can the member minister advise why there was no funding made available in the capital budget during the 2026 budget allocations?
Supplemental questions are to clarify or elucidate something asked and answered. He said that there would be reprogramming, so it hasn't been done.
Yes, I want clarity as to why it was not done.
That's a new question.
Sure.
Yes.
Be so guided, Madam Speaker.
So you make your laundry list. It's a new question arising from it, not a supplemental to clarify something he said. And the point is for this reason, Mr. Richardson, not to put anybody on ambush so that people don't speculate, so that the proper responses will come. So it's just based on standing orders, which is we ask supplemental questions just to elucidate what has been said. But if something arises from that creates the platform for a new question, you have as much latitude to bring your newly formulated questions so that the minister gets the proper factual responses. So let's move on.
Question 19. Will the minister list the specific actions taken by the government of Anguilla since assuming office to ensure compliance with, continuity of, and progress under the 2023 grant application?
Thank you for the question. To answer question 90, Madam Speaker, as a government committed to the completion of projects that supports the development of our athletes, and while awaiting a final decision from World Athletics, the government instructed its technical team to prepare cost estimates for site preparation for the National Track and Field facility. This exercise was undertaken to ensure readiness and to allow for informed comparison with other sites under consideration, while maintaining alignment with the objectives of the 2023 grant agreement.
Question 20. Will the minister state whether the government intends to proceed with construction on the land previously prepared for the National Track and Field facility and provide details of an alternative plan under consideration, including associated costs and compliance with the grant terms?
Thank you for the question. To answer question 20, Madam Speaker, the government values its partnership with local, regional, and international stakeholders and continues to be guided by what was previously agreed under the 2023 grant framework. Should any alternative plans be considered, these will be carefully assessed for the cost implications and compliance with the terms of the grant agreement. The government remains committed to transparency and will keep the public, and in particular our athletes, fully informed of any developments as decisions are made.
Any supplemental questions? And that concludes the questions that are before us. Thank you for the questions, members. Thank you for the responses. And just for our future and just for the public to be aware that we do progress the questions based on the rules. The questions are submitted by Thursday of any given week prior to the sitting. They can be submitted even earlier. So I do urge the opposition members to kind of submit the questions in much more advanced notice so that the responses would be factually based, supported, and then we proceed in this manner. So thank you for the exercise. Let's move on.
Government statements on recent developments, none. Papers, none. Reports from committees, none. Petitions, none. Government notices, none. Private members' notices, none. Motions, none. Personal explanations, none. Other business, government business. A bill for Port Nemara Marina Anguilla Berth Slips Act 2025, second reading.
I call upon the mover of the bill.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Port Nemara Marina Anguilla Berth Slips Act 2025 be read a second time.
Is there a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I raise the second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill be read a second time. I invite the mover to outline the objects and reasons.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll read through slowly for the benefit of the listening public the objects and reasons of this bill. The purpose of this bill is to establish a comprehensive legislative framework for the registration, ownership, administration, and regulation of berth slips at Port Nemara Marina, Anguilla. The bill provides legal certainty by recognizing berth slips as immovable property for ownership, leasing, mortgaging, and other registrable interests, and by integrating their registration into the existing land registration system administered under the Registered Land Act. The bill further provides for the filing of a Port Nemara Marina plan, the creation and maintenance of a berth slips register, and the execution of a berth slips master declaration to regulate the rights, responsibilities, and relationships of berth slip proprietors, tenants, licensees, and the marina owner. In addition, The bill clarifies the supervisory and administrative roles of the Registrar of Lands and Superintendent of Ports, thereby ensuring orderly marina operations, effective regulatory oversight, and alignment with national port and land administration policies. The enactment of this bill is intended to support marina development, promote investment, enhance transparency in property transactions, and facilitate the efficient management and commercial use of marina facilities while safeguarding the interests of all stakeholders. Summary of clauses. Clause 1 provides for interpretation and defines key terms used in the Act, including boat slip, Port Namara Marina, registrar, common property, and related expressions. It also confirms that boat slips constitute immovable property for registration purposes. Clause 2 provides for the filing and registration of the Port Namara Marina Plan and prohibits the sale, lease, or rental of any boat slip unless it is part of a registered plan. Clause 3 establishes the Port Namara Marina Boat Slips Register to be maintained by the Registrar of Lands for the registration of ownership and other interests in boat slips. Clause 4 provides for the execution and registration of a boat slips master declaration that sets out the rights, obligations, and governance arrangements applicable to boat slip proprietors, tenants, licensees, and the marina owner. Clause 5 provides for the registration of boat slip proprietors and the recording of ownership and other registrable interests in accordance with the Registered Land Act. Clause 6 defines the role of the Superintendent of Ports in relation to the oversight, regulation, and coordination of marina operations, including boat slips. Clause 7 empowers the Executive Council to make regulations to better implement provisions of the Act. Clause 8 provides for consequential amendments to existing legislation to give effect to the Act. Clause 9 provides for the citation of the Act. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I now open the floor for debate in respect of any comments or debate in respect of the bill that is before us. Does any member wish to speak to the bill that is on the floor? I recognize the honorable member for Road North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'll be very, very brief. Madam Speaker, I did not have a chance. Oh, good morning again. I don't remember if I said good morning when I stood up the last time, but good morning to everyone listening, and Happy New Year to everyone. Madam Speaker, I did read through the bill, and because of the bill, I also read the Ports, Harbors, and Piers Act, because being a member of Parliament, you have to make sure that what's going out to the people, that it makes sense. I just basically want to stand to say two things. I listened to the consultation, and I have to say that it was a great job done by the technocrats in the ministries on their presentation, because previously, while reading the bill, I had a lot of unanswered questions, but after listening to the technocrats, a lot of those questions were answered, and they did a very, very good job of explaining that basically the seabed still belongs to Anguilla 1. These new board slips, basically they're going to be treated as if you were to put up a building on land, just that there was nothing in our legislation previously that addressed that situation. So we have to bring this specific piece of legislation now to the House to address that concern. The other thing that is noteworthy, that this legislation is specific to this marina that is being constructed at this point in time. Any other new marinas coming on stream they would have to get their own precise legislation to deal with this matter. But, Madam Speaker, it was just to tell everyone who's listening, it would do us well as a community to go back, listen to the presentation made by the technocrats at the consultation, because there was a lot of valuable information given in those presentations. I wouldn't do justice to try to go over some of the points that they made, but it would do us well to listen. And just to say that I stand in support of this bill, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, member. I recognize the Honorable Single Island White Member Vanterpool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning to yourself, to my colleagues across the aisle and on the side of the bench, the House of Assembly staff, and to all Anguillians listening via whatever medium. I would like to start off by saying a happy and prosperous new year to all. I too, Madam Speaker, rise, like my colleague across the aisle, in support of this bill. In fact, out of fear of being repetitious, I think that he articulated quite well exactly how I too feel about this bill. I must say that Minister Kyle Hodge was fortunate to have what I would consider one of the better public consultations that I've seen on record, because not only was the information very rich and relevant, but there was also good turnout and participation by members of the community. So I, like my colleague, would encourage persons who might have missed the public consultation to go back and look at it, revise it. There was a lot of good information shared, but I just want to commend my colleague to my right. Madam Speaker, since we've been elected, this has been one of the projects that I've seen him work on very diligently, week in and week out. So to see it brought to this point, I think is a very good milestone and a testament of his hard work. So, Madam Speaker, I rise in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Are there any other contributions to the bill that is on the floor? I recognize the Honorable Member Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and a pleasant good morning to all. Wishing you all a healthy and prosperous 2026 and beyond. Madam Speaker, I too rise in full support of this particular bill and to congratulate the minister responsible for his effort, his work, the consultation, and the technical folks who presented and answered questions at the consultation. Madam Speaker, as a senior citizen in this honorable house, marina development and the potential for marinas in Anguilla existed before my time, and that's over 2 decades ago. There's never been an in-depth detail and legislation before that was brought to this house. And again, I congratulate the member for the hard work. I note, Madam Speaker, that the member for Road North was at the presentation, and he mentioned that this legislation is specific for this particular marina project. We have to start somewhere. And I believe, Madam Speaker, that the foundation has been laid. And as a result of that foundation, I'm sure that the minister has a firm footing to move forward and to be able to bring further legislation, if necessary, to amend what is there so that we will have it tailor-made for whatever future marinas would come forward, not a one-size-fits-all, so to speak. So again, congratulations to the minister and to the entire government for supporting him on this valuable project that could reap dividends going forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. Are there any other contributions? I recognize the Honorable Member for West End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a representative for West End, I'm proud to say West End is the first again to have a marina in Anguilla. My colleague, the Honorable Evans McNeil Rogers, mentioned that it's been a process over a number of decades. But the thing is, Madam Speaker, I saw some correspondence of the possible jobs that would be available when we talk about the marina, what's available there. And there's something about Anguilla and its history with the sea and the number of seamen, seafarers, as we would call them. So I think it's a great opportunity that Anguillians, young Anguillians, and those who are experienced as well can see themselves being part of that. I know, for instance, that a number of boat racers, young boat racers who are involved with the sailing school and as crew members in the Class A and Class B boats as well, they probably could see themselves having a career down at that marina. And also, it's not extended, it is extended worldwide as well, Madam Speaker, because the fact is that certain skills like that can take you all around the world. So I'm very much in support of this, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. If there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to reply.
Madam Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. And I want to thank the members of this House, those who rose to their feet to publicly say a few words in support of this bill, but also those who decided to just remain seated. I don't think there are any objections to this bill from either side of the House, Madam Speaker. So I want to say a general thank you to the House for this unanimous support for this Port Namara Marina Anguilla Board Slips Act 2025. Madam Speaker, in the early beginnings, I met with Lance, I met with the Permanent Secretary. The acting Permanent Secretary at the time, Ms. Shamika Hodge, and the Director of Lands, Mr. Jason Hodge. And we would have started the process, Madam Speaker. And in the very beginning, it was a very frustrating period because here we are under pressure, legislation backed up at the AG's office. And we know our new AG is here to fix all these problems. But we were backed up. The AG's office was backed up with legislation. And on one hand, we are speaking to the investor, the developer, and making certain promises, giving certain timelines, Madam Speaker. This was supposed to come to the House since August of 2025. We are here today, 13th of January, to do a second reading. But despite the setbacks, Madam Speaker, I am thankful and grateful that we have arrived to this point. And I want to put on record my thanks and appreciation to Cabinet and the Premier, Ms. Shamika Hodge, Permanent Secretary Larry Franklin, Jason Hodge, Angela Hughes. And I want to also single out the Attorney General. He just left, the acting Attorney General at the time, Mr. Ivor Green, and Ms. Dawn Richardson, CPC. She did a tremendous job, Madam Speaker, creating this legislation from scratch. And Madam Speaker, I take on board the comments of the member not regarding the consultation. I agree with him wholeheartedly that the consultation answered many questions, Madam Speaker. And that is in essence what consultations are supposed to do. So I want to give the kudos to the entire technical team and the Permanent Secretary for putting on a really good consultation. We had a good audience that asked a lot of questions, had some concerns, and the good thing about that consultation also, Madam Speaker, is the fact that the investor was online, was on Zoom, and we were able to bring him into the room through technology, and he was able to speak to the people and address the many questions that also came up. Madam Speaker, this legislation is, we call it bespoke legislation. I learned a new word recently. Legislation crafted and catered to a particular interest, Madam Speaker. And Anguilla is unique, Madam Speaker. And what we offer in Anguilla must always be unique. And that is why we have a unique document. And as the island-wide member, Honorable Evan McNeil Rogers said, it's tailor-made legislation. And this helps, Madam Speaker, with the marketability of the project. When the investors hold this document or share this document with potential buyers of boats, buyers of submerged land, underwater land, something that is totally new to Anguilla. When they hold this document and share it with potential buyers, it's a good selling point. So, Madam Speaker, during the consultation, a question was asked from the ATODAC as it relates to jobs. How will the people of Anguilla benefit from such a marina? What is in it for us? What is in it for us? And when he spoke about us, that us represented the people, the ordinary man, the ordinary woman in Anguilla. It wasn't speaking about government, because government will earn dues and fees and taxes. Those things ordinarily would come. And the investor, of course, is in this to make money. It's not for charity. But the question was asked by Derek Atodak, what's in it for us? And we would have spoken to the investor, Madam Speaker, directly. And he would have sent a list of potential jobs that can be for Anguillians. Anguillians in Anguilla, Anguillians in the diaspora. And I want to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to invite Anguillians to come back home. Because this is in essence diversification within the tourism sector. This is good for Anguilla. This is good for the people of Anguilla. This is good for school leavers, Madam Speaker, considering their first job opportunity. In Anguilla being a boating, sailing culture, community, Madam Speaker, this fits right in line with what Anguilla offers. So, Madam Speaker, I want to take a little bit of time to go through the list of jobs that the investor developer would have sent, so that the people of Anguilla, listening in Anguilla, listening abroad, Anguillians come back home. These jobs include yacht engineers, and this covers hull engineers, this covers mechanical engineers, engine work, electronic and navigation specialists, deck and rigging, yacht interior, to those upholstery professionals, Madam Speaker. This is indeed additional work for them. Racing technology, yacht crew, and that's a very interesting one, Madam Speaker, because we often think that, yachts come and they come with their crew, and there are no opportunities for us, Anguillians, to be crew members. But by having a marina in Anguilla, it sets the stage, Madam Speaker, for us to have crew members, potential crew members, being hired and sailing the world with marinas that will be, with yachts that will be home to Anguilla. And the same is true for Bermuda Air. Bermuda Air launching Anguilla Air in Anguilla. Anguilla. I'm sure in the near future that we would have Anguillan pilots doing that route, doing those routes between Baltimore, Boston, and Newark. Because they are Bermudians flying with Bermuda Air. So they can be Anguillians as well. Continuing with the job opportunities, Madam Speaker, I said a minute ago, there's opportunity for yacht crew, captains, service crews, anchoring crews, and then as it relates to the marina management and operation, there's opportunity for divers, pontoon and dock engineering, electrical system engineers, marina management clerics and operators, and people to do technical support. Also, there's opportunity for concierge services. Yacht amenities, yacht services, import, export of goods, laundry services, food provisioning, supplies and storage, onshore crew and management. These are just some of the opportunities that are available, Madam Speaker. Extended industries and services is also something that Anguillians can benefit from. And that includes the transport and shipping area, accessory equipment rental and supply, system representatives on island, franchising and distribution, repairs, spare parts, the entire import-export industry. And Madam Speaker, I think it's important for us as a government to even publicize this. Just mentioning them here in this house does not do justice to the real opportunities that exist for Anguillians. So I invite, Madam Speaker, Anguillians abroad to seriously consider the opportunities that exist. And of course, Madam Speaker, there'll be training. So if you're listening and you're interested, and you may not have the training at this time, at this present time, there's opportunity, whether it's through the government or whether it's through the investor with the links that he would have to provide training for our people, to skill up our people for these jobs. Madam Speaker, I think the Act speaks clearly, and the objects and reasons also provided a deeper understanding of the essential components of this bill. But before I close, Madam Speaker, although we as a government were responsible for the creation of this legislation, I also want to thank the former administration, thank the former premier, who is the leader of opposition at this time, for his part that he played when it came to bringing the investor, bringing the marina folks together with the owner of Altima. I believe that role was an essential part to us being able to realize a marina. We've always wanted a marina. Before my time, before the former premier's time, in fact, the controversial Sanagrong Marina, that clearly indicates that the previous AUF administration understood the importance of diversifying within the tourism sector. So, Madam Speaker, as I said earlier, this is apolitical, and efforts were made by many administrations of the past. And I am happy that I am here today with this present government under the leadership of our Premier, Cora Richardson Hodge, and our acting Premier, Mr. Cardigan Khan, to be able to debate this bill and to eventually pass it into law. Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
Thank you, Member. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled a Bill for Port Namara Marina Anguilla Birth Slips Act 2025 be read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
Port Namara Marina Anguilla Birth Slips Act 2025. The purpose of this act is to establish a legislative framework to provide for the registration of birth slips in Port Namara Marina and to provide for related matters.
Bill read a second time. At this stage, I know the members and the public would be familiar with the process where the bill would then progress to the committee stage for consideration of the bill line by line. I have of my own initiative, however, and of my own volition, given sight to Standing Order 82 and 84 to the mover of the bill. For the benefit of those that were not included on my communication to the mover, I issued a communication to the member moving the bill on January 9th, 2026, setting out my decision that this bill should progress as a private bill in accordance with the standing orders. And if you have the standing orders, and I'll read them for the benefit of the public, they are located on the House of Assembly.ai's website. Standing Order 82 provides, in any case where individual rights or interests or the property of any private person may be peculiarly affected by any public or private bill, all parties interested may, upon petition for that purpose and on motion made, seconded and carried, be heard before the Assembly or any committee thereof, either in person or by counsel. It is my duty, honorable members, notwithstanding that this bill is supported by both sides of the aisle, and I do commend both sides for supporting something that I know Anguilla will benefit from and that Anguilla is excited for. However, it is incumbent on me as the Speaker to make reference to how this will progress through to the committee stage. This bill will be progressed as a private bill, and the publication thereof will be in respect of Standing Order 84. And if you have Standing Order 84 in front of you, and for the benefit of the public, it reads, every bill intended to affect or benefit some particular person, association, or corporate body shall contain a section saving the rights of Her Majesty, her heirs, and successors, all bodies, politic and corporate, and all others, except as are aforementioned in the bill, and those claiming by, from, or under them. No such bill, not being a government measure, shall be introduced into the Assembly until due notice has been given at the expense of the promoters by not less than 3 successive publications of the bill in the Gazette and in some newspaper, if any, circulating in Anguilla. And where any particular premises are affected until after a copy of the bill has been affixed to the police station nearest to such property for not less than 3 weeks. Proof of that requirement aforesaid has been complied with shall be made by solemn declaration to the satisfaction of and deposited with the clerk. I believe the mover has been given due notice by the clerk that I have determined that this is a private bill. It refers to private rights of a private organization, and for those reasons, so that our consultation is fruitful, so that our consultation is transparent and robust, I don't want this House to be for 1 minute persuaded that just because both sides support it, that it is a foregone conclusion that it will be passed. The committee stage is a very important stage in the legislative scrutiny process. This bill, as you have before you, makes reference to certain consequential amendments that have to be done. The honorable member for Road North made indication that he has read one of the consequential amendments that the bill refers to, the harbors. Mr. Richardson, it was referred to in Section 8. One consequential amendment, Section 8, the Ports, Harbors, and Piers Act is amended in Section 3A by adding the following phrase at the end. However, in review of this bill, there are certain other consequential amendments that ought to follow, and as a natural consequence, will have to follow and has to be scrutinized by both sides of this House before you consider going to the third stage. I know it's unusual in a circumstance where a bill is unilaterally supported, but it is the step that we are going to take. There are certain legislative instruments that have to be considered. For example, the Stamp Act, the Alien Landholding License Regulation Act, the Registered Land Act, and these were all alluded to by the Honorable Minister when he moved in this. However, those are points and matters that have to be scrutinized through the committee stage. You will recall that the committee stage of our budget process was a new one, and I had indicated that that is the way that we will scrutinize legislation, especially legislation of this nature, which touches and concerns land, water rights, birthing rights, and the overall reputation of the jurisdiction as it relates to the sale of births internationally. The public will want to be involved in the consultation process. It will be a public process. We are going to commence the first part of the committee stage offline. In some jurisdictions, the committee stage as a whole is offline, but I'm proposing that the first stage of the committee will resume at the end, will commence rather, at the end of this sitting today. The purpose of that sitting will be to set out the timelines and to set out the logistics with how consultation will be done, how members of the public will be involved in the scrutiny process during the committee stage. And I'm thinking that based on the timelines that the rules require, it would still put us in good standing for our next sitting, which will likely be on the 10th of February at 10 a.m., where the actual committee stage, phase 2, the public part of that committee stage, will be underway. So I am going to refer this to committee, but immediately move that it be adjourned to a full sitting of the committee, commencing at the end of this sitting today and carrying over to the 10th of February at 10 a.m. May we proceed?
Private members' bills? None. Private bills? None. Other orders of the day?
Are there any other orders of the day? I recognize the Honorable Member for West End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we haven't been here for a while, so I'd like to offer condolences to family and friends of the late Shulda Thompson, originally of Guyana, and a respected security guard across the island of Anguilla, the Anglican Church, and Reverend Minez Hodge. The Methodist Church lost Mr. Franklin A. Roberts and the Reverend E. Dunstan Richardson. We had Kenneth Brooks of Little Harbor, former immigration officer, Dennis Egbert Gums of North Hill, Romaine Carby of South Hill, Clashawn Brooks of Blowing Point, Joseph Nathan Hodge, who is the father of the former Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Kenneth Hodge, and Ashley Mussington, who lived in the Water Swamp, but also in England. He died in England. Madam Speaker, I would also like to publicly welcome the Attorney General to Anguilla and her husband, and especially so because I was told she was a cricketer, a women's cricketer, but better still, she lived in Hampshire. So we've got a lot to talk about. So, Madam Speaker, again, and to the Attorney General, thank you and your husband for choosing Anguilla. And there's another issue that I have, Madam Speaker. It's about the private bins throughout Anguilla on the roadside. Please, I'm asking all persons who have private bins or household bins that please check when it is the pickup time. It is usually overnight. You take your bins to the roadside, and then the next morning the bins should be empty. Please move them back from the roadside. Because what is a household bin will end up being an overly dumped public bin, not necessarily by your neighbors, but anybody who drives by. And it leaves a negative impression of our island, Madam Speaker. There is a lot of work to be done in our ministry, in our Department of Environmental Health, but so much of it, Madam Speaker, is a responsibility, not just of the staff, but of the people of Anguilla. We are proud to have Anguilla rated as one of the best islands in the Caribbean, but we could do so much more just by whether visitors or locals, stop tossing bottles and cans, and the truck drivers who are taking the garbage from A to B, and especially along the Spring Path Road and the Jeremiah Gums Highway. How many times do we have to appeal to our people to do that, Madam Speaker? How many times? Yep. So, Madam Speaker, I ask our people to please take pride in your area. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you for that admonition, member. Very good advice. Are there any other orders of the day? I recognize the honorable member for Island Harbor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. And wish a happy, healthy, and successful new year to you, Madam Speaker, to the members of the House, and those in the gallery, and the people of Anguilla. And looking forward to a good year. And Madam Speaker, hopefully no hurricanes, natural disasters, or other shocks that can set us back. Madam Speaker, I too would like to wish condolences to those who've lost loved ones, especially our former Minister Kenneth Hodge and his family, and his siblings who have lost their father. I know that I recently went through a similar sense of loss, the loss of my mother. And Father Minez Hodge, Anglican minister, and one we knew well, worked Radio Anguilla back in the day, and also a good scout. His family, we wish heartfelt condolences. And all who have lost loved ones. Madam Speaker, that takes me to the recent deaths that we had, the young man in Blowing Point and the other gentleman that died. And this scourge of gun crime and violence, Madam Speaker, is one that we constantly deal with. We do thank the Royal Anguilla Police Force for their work and Commissioner Robert Clark. But we know we have to do better, Madam Speaker, so that we can continue to carry the moniker of the safest island in the Caribbean. Cannot proudly boast that when these senseless deaths are happening, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to point out that, our thoughts and prayers are with those, the families of those affected, especially the families of the victims. But it leads us to, why aren't we doing more? And we do know that the closed-circuit TV, Madam Speaker, has been budgeted for and constantly brought up, and we still have not seen the island-wide CCTV, which we know, Madam Speaker, would help. We know this because, Madam Speaker, I had the privilege of joining the Premier on a trip to St. Kitts, where they have done significant work and pointed out where they have been helped by technology, by certain initiatives. And we need to take a more active role, Madam Speaker, all of us, all hands on deck, not just government, but opposition, community, and our churches, other organizations, to make sure that this is limited, Madam Speaker, because every time we lose someone, Madam Speaker, we lose not only that person, but we lose the potential that that person would have had, and especially our young men, Madam Speaker. We do know that young men in general, are don't want to say that we are becoming extinct, but it seems like that is where it's headed. And so we want to make sure that our society looks out and protects our men, especially our young men, and start paying more attention and nurturing, Madam Speaker, so that we can have men who stand for good cause and those who have purpose, Madam Speaker. I know it has been pointed out that this House is well represented by women, Madam Speaker, and in our leadership. But we do need to look out for our young men because they are the ones that are in danger. And again, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to many good sessions where we debate the issues and bills that bring policy. And I know that this is what we're here for. I welcome the Honorable Attorney General to Anguilla and look forward to getting the help that we have long needed to move bills along and get policies put into bills and acts so that we can do what is necessary for the people that we represent. Again, I want to thank the people of District 1 for giving me this opportunity to stand in this honorable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Member. I recognize the Honorable Member for Road North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too would like to welcome our new Attorney General to our shows. I fear that because of all the work we have for you, you're not going to get to enjoy our beaches. And I apologize, I apologize for that from the very beginning. But welcome to our shows. I know you will enjoy Anguilla. I know it's a task ahead, but I know you will definitely enjoy your time here in Anguilla. Madam Speaker, I'd like to start off with offering some condolences to some families and persons who have gone on to the other side from my community, from in North Hill. Mr. Dennis Gomes, who passed away at the beginning of the year. I offer condolences to his family, the Gomes family, his sister Yates, his brother, and all his children, nephews, and everyone who's mourning. Also offer condolences to the family of Mabel Richardson, who passed at the ending of the year. And I offer condolences to her children, Tyrone Orney, Reen Kissy, and Devon, and all her grandchildren. As you can see, Madam Speaker, it's a trend. My community seems to have been hit very hard in the last couple of weeks. And not so with then the passing of Zenith, who was a pillar in both the North Hill and the Sandy Ground communities. Everybody just says she's from Sandy Ground, but she was a strong, strong pillar in the North Hill community. She was part of the Zion Methodist Church, part of the Zion Adventurers, who planned many an activity in North Hill, whether it's for Easter, whether it's for Christmas. And I know she was also a driving force amongst the satellite ladies. Those are the ladies who prepare the food, all the planning that go around getting the boat into the water. And I know she is going to be missed by two communities, and especially her family, her children, Kim, Ron, her sister Pat, her mom. Zenith and Pat, whenever you see them, they always have a smile on their face, both of them. And I know they got it from their mom. I won't go into some stories when I visit the mom while campaigning, but you can see where they get their joyous demeanor from. And that joyous demeanor is going to be definitely missed in both the Sandy Ground and the North Hill communities. I also want to offer condolences to the family of Mr. Carby, who was brutally taken a couple days ago, and the family of Clashan Gomes. I had the opportunity for years to play basketball with Clashan's dad, Ross. Played basketball together for many years. But more so, Madam Speaker, I was in the company. I won't call his name because I know he would not want me to call his name publicly. But I was in the company of a young man when the news was received about the passing of Clashan. And when he got that news, I was called to say that he's balling. And this is a young man who every opportunity he gets, he likes to show his toughness and how manly he is. But getting the news that one of his best friend's life was tragically taken, he broke down and couldn't stop crying. And that was probably one of the first times in a long, long time. And I may give away who he is when I say that I got a hug from him because of what he experienced at that time. And Madam Speaker, for me, at that point in time, it took me back many, 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 many years ago when I too lost a best friend tragically. Both of us were 19 at the time. And like I said the other day, if anyone come to me now, I can relay every single thing that happened to me that day in full detail because I've replayed it over and over and over in my head. All these years, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, when these tragedies happen in Anguilla, like I've said on so many occasions, it's just not that one person. It's entire families, it's entire communities. It leaves us with scars, Madam Speaker, that I think we are unhealed from and will continue to be unhealed from. And I won't go into a lot of detail because our honorable leader has covered a lot in terms of what needs to be done and what needs to continue to be done, Madam Speaker. But just that we as a society, Madam Speaker, we need to continue to step up. We can't let down our guard, Madam Speaker. Sometimes we think, okay, there's a lull, things are good. But we can't ever, ever let down our guard, Madam Speaker. This country is too precious. Our young men are too precious. Whether it's Valor Man, East Man, West Man, Madam Speaker, we are all Anguillians. And we are all precious. I know young men from every corner of Anguilla, Madam Speaker. And it seriously, seriously affects me and hurts me every single time that I hear one of these young men are taken away. Because I either know them or know of them intimately, Madam Speaker. Some of them, many, many, many of them, Madam Speaker, have daps up, have healed up, have held conversations with. And to see that young lives are still being taken so tragically, Madam Speaker, it hurts me. Also, Madam Speaker, condolences to the father of our colleague, to the family of our former colleague, Mr. Ken Hodge, and the passing of his dad as well, Madam Speaker. I offer condolences to that entire family. And Madam Speaker, I may just try to save it for the last so I can end on a good note. I want to offer congratulations to all our UBI graduates. And I probably gonna get in trouble for singling out, but I have no choice. No choice, Madam Speaker, but to single out our own Miss Hodge. Yes. Congratulations to her. First class honors as well, Madam Speaker. Let me say that publicly. But to all the graduates, Madam Speaker, I want to say a hearty congratulations to them. Like I said on the radio program yesterday, when you know of some of their stories and when you read of some of the stories of some of these persons, how they've persevered to finally get to that point, Madam Speaker, it's very, 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 very inspiring. So, Madam Speaker, congratulations to all and to our own Ms. Hodge. Congratulations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Member. I recognize the Honorable Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I don't need to go into rehashing all of the condolences that was expressed by the Honorable Acting Premier and others. But I just want to say Shoulder, who worked at the NCBA West Branch, often the time, it's right next door to me, often the time when I would go to the bank, she would open the door for me. And I said to her on the last day she was there, I said, "You are the first lady to ever open a door for me." I don't remember if my mother opened the door for me, but and I meant it, you know, and she was a really pleasant lady. So you could imagine my shock when we were here in the house and I got a message that last year that she had passed suddenly. It was really a shock to me. I also had the opportunity to work with Zenith. She was one of the custodians over at the Ministry of Tourism and Infrastructure. And what a pleasant lady. What a pleasant lady. I've known her for a very long time. but I got to know her even more so as she worked at the ministry. And that is two of the ladies from the ministry that passed in the last year, Madam Speaker, as we know. And it is not related to the ministry. I mean, add just in case the member, single-eyed member, Mr. Joseph Vanderpool, become nervous and stop attending the ministry, where it's not a consequence of being in that ministry, it's just, you know, the natural occurrence of things. But it also underscores the prevalence of cancer in this country, Madam Speaker. We are a small island of 12,000 people, and there are so many people in this country who have been afflicted with NCDs, in particular, a range of cancers, Madam Speaker. And for those persons who want to claim that the prevalence of cancer only started in 2021 when the COVID vaccine came around, I challenge that, Madam Speaker, because many years ago, my first cousin, Dr. Lowell Hughes, he and I had a conversation. This was back in the mid-2000s, and he was lamenting about a high prevalence of cancers, in particular breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colon cancer in Anguilla, and a number of cancers and so forth. And he said to me, he believed, and this may not be so, but he said it may be for a few reasons. One, our diets have dramatically changed. He said, two, we consume an extraordinary amount of alcohol. And alcohol have a significant impact on so many of our organs, and we know that it's a carcinogen and it's cancer causing. There's a scientific report that said that if alcohol came out today and they did the studies on it, the recommended dosage for the consumption of alcohol would be 1 drink a year. Amazing. You know, I may have 1 drink every other hour, like my friend Mr. Evan McNeil Rogers. But, Madam Speaker, and another thing that he said is that many years ago, and those of us who are old enough to know, most of our schools and buildings in Anguilla were built with asbestos. I attended Road Primary School. The pipes were asbestos, the walls were asbestos. Radio Anguilla was asbestos, and many people who worked at Radio Anguilla succumbed to cancer. That was another reason that he looked at. But there's a huge amount of cancer in Anguilla, and it's rapid. 1 minute you feel fine, the next week you hear that you're dead from cancer, you know, and something to be considered. And I know that the department, the health department had different programs such as Move Your Body and the eradication of NCDs and so forth, but there need to be a holistic approach. And I'm not saying that the politicians need to do that, because everybody needs to take personal responsibility for their own health and well-being. But from a national standpoint, there are certain things that we can do, whether it's certain taxes and so forth on high fructose corn syrup or banning MSG and so forth. But there's so many things that we can do as it relates to that. So we have lost too many people because of cancer. But one of the things that we have lost a lot of people to since 2003 is the scourge of gun violence in Anguilla, Madam Speaker. So much so that in 2006 we had 10 persons that lost their lives to the scourge of gun violence. And just yesterday, the Honorable Mayor Richardson and I were talking about gun violence in Anguilla. We remembered that in our class, we lost 3 people thus far. Ral Hazel, who died of NCDs, really. Norma Gomes, I think she was Gomes, she died of cancer. And Michelle Edwards, who died of a vehicular accident. That's how we died. But today, you have children who have graduated in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and they have lost 5, 10, 15 members of their classes to gun violence. How? The young man that was shot in Blowing Point on Saturday, I don't want to be too long, Madam Speaker, but the young man that was shot in Blowing Point on Saturday morning, yes, his father is from Blowing Point, but his mother and his mother's family is from Stony Ground, the Stony Ground area. It means that wherever you are in this island, you have familial ties. We are one people, and that is why my father went to Barbados to find a wife, Madam Speaker, and so too did Larry Franklin, Madam Speaker, because we are one people, we are one family. Across this island, we are one family. I had a long conversation with Jimmy Marshman Lloyd on Saturday, Madam Speaker. We were talking about athletics. He was the best athlete Anguilla has ever had. And he was speaking about his time in high school. He lived in the valley, but he was from Blowing Point. Brass bucket. We had track and field teams. He lived in the valley. He headed up a track and field team in the valley. Lloyd Gums headed up a track and field team in the road area. But Brass Bucket is from Blowing Point. So we need to get away from this scourge of gun violence wherever we are. And how is it that a young man can become employed tomorrow and the first thing that he can think about to invest in is an illegal firearm, Madam Speaker? It's absolutely ridiculous. And I would say this on public record because everybody look at the end result, they don't look at the journey. My first investment from my first paycheck was a pallet of blocks. And we need to somehow, some way, get back to that, Madam Speaker. Somehow, some way to get back to that. And I don't know what it's going to take because it's been talked about. So many suggestions, proposals have been discussed there, different marches, national prayers, speaking to God, speaking to Allah, speaking to Jehovah, speaking to Haile Selassie, speaking to Buddha. We have done everything, and still we have young men who be sitting in their homes and decide at 2 a.m. in the morning we're going to this person's home to shoot up their house. We are sick, and we need healing, and I don't know where that healing is going to come from. So, Madam Speaker, I also want to offer condolences to a friend of mine, and that is Reverend Minez Hodge. Reverend Minez Hodge was a bold man, a strong man, and I heard that he too was an excellent athlete when he was a youngster, Madam Speaker. And he was a man who was unafraid to challenge persons, and I appreciate him for all of his advice that he gave me over the years. So, Madam Speaker, we have entered 2026, and the old ways of 2025 as it relates to violence continues. And I hope those two will be the last two because they are hurting the goose that is laying the golden egg. I was so dismayed when I opened up the different media profiles and saw them speaking about Anguilla in that particular way. Recently, we were deemed the safest country in the Caribbean. And we are. But safe for who? Because that was a tourism blog. Safe for the tourists? We can't only be safe for the tourists. You know, we cannot be only safe for the tourists. It must be from within. We have to be our brother's keeper. We have to look out for each other. We have to stop killing each other, killing our cousins. I only learned since coming to this house that Cora Judson Hodge was my cousin. I didn't know that before. But that is the nature of who we are. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your time.
Thank you, Member. I recognize the Honorable Single Island-wide Member, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning to all members of this honorable House. I want to extend healthy 2026 ahead. 2026 is looking very productive, and we hope that it continues like that. I would also like to welcome our newly Attorney General to our shores, and I'm sure she will enjoy her time with us. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to extend condolences to the families that have lost loved ones. It's very hard to start the year losing a loved one, and I would like to just extend my sympathy to all of them. Madam Speaker, I also rise to congratulate the Anguilla Football Association for a milestone that they will be celebrating on the 24th of January, where they will be recognized, they will be changing from the Talent Development Team to the Talent Development Academy. And it's a huge milestone for them and for our young footballers on island as well. And they will be hosting a huge celebration with regional partners, coaches from the region that will also be joining them in this celebration. And there's going to be a very peculiar match on that day from government officials or representatives. And we also invite the opposition members to be part of it if they would like to be part of the match. And the public will be able to enjoy the presence of the single island-wide member Kyle Hodge as a striker. Probably missing the polls, but will be, and also they'll enjoy the also the member for Valley North, Minister Rogers Webster, also remembering her time as a footballer. So it will be something genuine and enjoyable to see. I'll also be on that match, but I'll be defending the interests of that team. So we invite the general public to come out and support. We'll also probably see the Minister for Sports. Probably he'll be the goalkeeper, we never know. Or he'll be on the wing. But we also expect to see him there. So we invite the general public to come out and enjoy this milestone that AFA, Anguilla Football Association, will be celebrating and continue to encourage other associations to continue to push for greatness, because that's all that we want for them, and I'm sure that's all that they are aiming for. Thank you very much.
I recognize the honorable member for Valley North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also wish to put on record my sincerest condolences to the families that have lost family members over the Christmas period and into January, Madam Speaker. Particularly the young man, Mr. Clashan Gums, Madam Speaker. As the member indicated, his mother is from my constituency and is actually a cousin, Madam Speaker. And so we all sympathize with the situation in regard to our young men, and we ask that families continue to stay strong in spite of these difficult circumstances, Madam. I also wish to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Joseph Hodge, the father of the former member of the House of Assembly, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, as well. I also wish to extend condolences to members of Reverend Minez Hodge, Madam Speaker, who has really led a lifetime and a legacy of service to the Anguillian community. Mr. Hodge has worked as a former public servant, obviously a reverend in the Anglican Church, but also a core member of the Little Licks community, who has touched many of the lives of the persons in our communities for many years, who served in various capacities and has always stood in the gap for a number of persons in the community. So I wish his family peace during this period of time. I also wish to commend the members of the UE, Madam Speaker, who did an exceptional job, who recently graduated, particularly Raniko, who continues to serve this honor with such excellence, Madam Speaker. I wish to personally thank her for her continued commitment to the work of the House, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, members. I recognize the honorable Single Island White Electoral District Member Rogers.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I too want to echo my condolences to the individuals' families who would have lost loved ones. Mr. Hodge, Reverend Roberts, Reverend Dunson, Judson, and the others whom the acting premier would have mentioned. And especially to the family of the former Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, on the passing of his father. I mention and single him out, Madam Speaker, because he was a mentor to me at the old Cottage Hospital. We were both laboratory rats, and he was the one who guided my pathway through medical technology and biomedical engineering and so on and so forth. We would have had a long-lasting friendship over the years, Madam Speaker. I would have extended my condolences and sympathies to his family, and I just want to do it publicly now. But to all the departed and the families. That's a journey, Madam Speaker, that we all must take one day. And as such, we give kudos and we give our sympathies on their passing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. I recognize Member Vanderpool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wish to join my colleagues in extending condolences to all those who have been passed and who are mentioned here today. In particularly, I would like to highlight the passing of Zenith. As the former minister indicated, she is a treasured member of the team of Maiku. And prior to becoming minister and interacting with her there, I, in a past life, got to work with her at Malihana during my time there. She was truly a warm person, had developed a very close relationship with her, so much so that whenever she would come into the office in the afternoon to do her cleaning, she would never fail to stop by my office just to get her daily hug. She will be missed, as will all of the other persons who have passed, and our hearts, thoughts, and prayers will continue to go out to the affected families. And Madam Speaker, I too would also like to join in congratulating the members who would have passed recently from the University of the West Indies. Congratulations, Roniko, and all others. And for those who are still pursuing their academic journeys, it's the beginning of a new semester, it's the beginning of a new year. Wish you all the best in the year ahead, and you too will pass that graduation point very soon. All the best and many success. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, members. I recognize the Honorable Member Hodge.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And I too want to join with my colleagues in the House to extend condolences to many families. The list is long, Madam Speaker, so I won't go through the list, but to extend condolences, just Grant, Moses, Madam Speaker, to through this period. You know, moments like families usually band together to keep each other strong. Madam Speaker, I want to particularly speak to the young people. I'm still relatively young. Kind of understand, you know, how community is supposed to operate. And I kind of understand the block and being on the block and what it's supposed to be. In my time coming up, I sat on my block. Those folks seeing on their accused a young citizen by this corner was a shape and kept me out of trouble because I had first-hand experience. Went to jail twice. That's what India was like, and the need to focus, and the need to avoid certain bad decisions. So my appeal this morning is to every community in Anguilla to work towards building your community back. Because what exists today as a community, Madam Speaker, is not what we know years gone by communities to be. It has come, it's changed significantly. When my mother would go to work and 4 or 5 children would be home without a guardian, that's when the immediate neighbor got involved. And the neighbor was no relative of mine, but the neighbor was caring and looking out for that is lost today. Neighbors are not living neighborly. Communities are not living how communities supposed to live. In each community in Anguilla, Madam Speaker, has its challenges. And each community in Anguilla can resolve these issues if only we go back to how communities lived in the past. So my closing thoughts, as it is a responsibility of each and every one of us to speak to our young people, to meet with them in their spaces, in their communities, and speak to them, give them guidance, give them the nurture and the care that they so desire. It starts with us getting back to being good neighbors and getting back to being a strong community that looks out for each other. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. If there are no other contributions, I invite a member to move that this House be adjourned, and I'm proposing the adjourn date to the 10th of February.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned to February 10th at 10 a.m.
Any seconders?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House stands adjourned until the 10th of February at 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. This House stands adjourned.